And as one who has been involved in the Balloon Fiesta since its start in 1972, and as a member of its Hall of Fame, I believe Van Tassel's legacy will live on in this authoritative biography. In Skyrider, Park Van Tassel finally takes his rightful place alongside other world-famous aviation pioneers. Dick Brown, Heritage Committee, Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, October 2019. Preface. I first became interested in ballooning as a teenager. My father had the good fortune to attend a balloon fiesta in Albuquerque in the 1980s and returned to our home in San Diego with many photographs of what seemed like an endless sky filled with balloons of all shapes, sizes, and colors. Dad and I enjoyed flying radio-controlled model gliders together for many years. While gliders and balloons share a common theme of silent flight, there is something unique and inherently beautiful about balloons. Each flight is a new adventure, requiring smart pilots to think carefully about making use of the atmosphere and the energy it provides. I was naturally drawn to this way of thinking, as smart, continuous decision-making is required to extend flight without motors. At roughly the same time, a high school friend asked if I might be available to help as ground crew for a local ballooning company in San Diego, as it was short-staffed at the time. I readily agreed, although I knew almost nothing about balloons and ballooning other than what my dad had shared with me about his experience at the fiesta in Albuquerque. Soon enough, I found myself in a field, helping inflate a very large balloon owned by the Sky Surfer Balloon Company. The inflation was louder and hotter than I expected, and there was much to do. Soon we had the balloon and basket in their proper orientation, with paying passengers and pilot on board ready for their flight. Before I could really understand everything that was happening, the craft was off, rising rapidly like a toy balloon that had just escaped a child's grasp of the string. My friend and I cleaned up the launch site, hopped in a van, and started the chase. We were in radio communication with the pilot and discussed likely landing zones on the way. Once a landing location was chosen, our task was to get there in advance of the balloon and then help with landing. I wasn't yet sure what that entailed, but chasing the balloon on the back roads of San Diego was its own new type of fun. With the sun just setting on this twilight balloon ride, we arrived at the landing zone, an empty field of bushes and grass. As the balloon came closer, our first job was to jump on the outside of the basket to serve as added ballast to keep the balloon on the ground. With a slight breeze, this wasn't going to be easy. We timed our jump on either side of the basket, held on for the landing, and scraped along the ground just a bit before coming to rest, with the passengers cheering a successful conclusion to their flight. Champagne followed, along with our packing away the balloon at dusk. Afterward, the company hired me to help with balloon chasing 2 or 3 other times a week that summer. I was impressed by the skill of the pilots, their amazing ability to understand wind currents at different altitudes and steer their way to the select landing zones available. On one landing approach, I hopped on as ballast, but the pilot realized the approach was going to go long and put us directly into a large patch of prickly pear cactus. He told me to hang on as he fired the burner just enough for us to glide over the cactus to a landing on the other side. I was even more relieved than the pilot. I never did get a chance to go up in the balloon that summer, as it was always full of paying passengers. However, upon returning to San Diego after earning my Ph.D. at the University of California, Los Angeles, my wife Joanne and I had the pleasure of taking a flight with the same balloon company. It had been a long time coming, but my familiarity with all aspects of the flight helped. Yet I remained unprepared for the silence and the majesty of the view from the basket. I was also unprepared for the noise and heat produced by the burner, a reminder that energy was required to extend the journey. But we landed safely and finally had the chance to enjoy sharing in the champagne. From this modern vantage point, it can be difficult to process what ballooning must have been like in the past. We have been accustomed to the comforts of air travel, and we accept it as just another part of daily life. In just a short 250 years or so, we've managed to transform what was once considered an impossible art of flight into a reality. Commercial airliners whisk us around the world at nearly the speed of sound, while we enjoy movies and drinks. Unpiloted aircraft can be flown by an operator half a world away, or even controlled by